Welcome to the Prep Pigskin Report podcast, hosted by Papa Pig himself, Paul Rudy.
Welcome to the Prep Pigskin Report podcast, episode
8
or 9.
8.
Bert is, Bert, I'm Paul, and we are honored to have Brandon Farbstein, Generation Zer, author, motivational speaker, over 216,000 followers on Instagram. We're going to talk a wide-ranging topic, Brandon, but just for starters, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Well, one of the reasons why we want to talk to you, you have a new kids book out called a kids book about self-love. You're an author. Was it difficult to change voice from an adult voice to a kid's voice?
To be honest, I think because I'm still relatively close to that age range, being 22, I was able to kind of take myself back to those years to think about what kids really need to hear most, especially with all that is going on right now. So it came quite easy. It just was a matter of trying to figure out exactly what to say and how to say it that I found myself getting a bit in my head with. But I had an incredible team at this publisher, a kids company about that I partnered with to release the book that really made my idea come to life in such an incredible way. So I'm really excited to see it take life.
And expand on that. I mean, you're so successful now. You have an agency, you're doing fashion shows in New York, you live in California. Is it hard to go back to the 11-year-old and have that pain anymore and put it down on paper, or is it so far behind you now?
It's a really good question, Bert. I think for me, so much of my platform is of me sharing my full self. And in the years of probably starting when I was about 9 or 10, I really started to hate being different. And I loathed being in my skin so much that I nearly took my life during that time. And so I never want to get back to being at such a low and painful point. But at the same time, I also never want to forget what it's like and the lessons that it taught me so that I'm able to carry it not only for myself, but also to share it with as many other people as possible too.
Brandon, we should tell people your story. At what age did you realize that, hey, I'm not like the other kids?
So probably was 4 or 5 when I distinctly remember looking in the mirror with my mom beside me and asking, why do my legs look so funny? And to give you all a little bit of context, because you probably can't tell either listening to the podcast or watching the video, I have a rare form of dwarfism and stand at 3'9". So that's about the size of the average 7 or 8-year-old. And during that conversation with my mom, she told me, your legs aren't funny or weird. You just have special bones. And from that point on, I knew that I was different, but I didn't see that difference as being unique in a good way. I thought that it made me stand out from all the other kids and would only lead to more teasing and exclusion. But then I kind of flipped the script on myself after I started getting help through therapy and counseling and realized that my uniqueness is my superpower. And that's the same for all of us. We don't necessarily need to have a medical condition or a disability or anything like that in order to see that we were born with incredible things. And it's up to us to see that within ourselves first and foremost.
So 2015, you did a TED Talk, I think in Richmond, Virginia, where you're from. Did you have any idea leading up to that this was going to be your life, or that it was going to blow up to that extent and this was going to be the rest of your life? Or was it just something you wanted to do, thought you'd do it and then go on to the next thing?
Nowhere near did I think the response would be what it was, but quite literally, I knew nothing going into it because that was the very first time that I shared my story. It was the first speech that I had given. So I am kind of glad that I didn't really know what was going to happen, because in that case, I didn't psych myself out beforehand. I was used to being on stage as an actor. I was in a lot of community theater and musicals and really loved playing characters, but I never was Brandon. And so for the first time stepping out, it was only 6 minutes, but those 6 minutes turned into everything for me, because it was then that I found my purpose and my mission. And at 15, to discover that was such a blessing. And I've been truly carrying that with me ever since.
Brandon, this is a high school football show per se, but a lot of athletics is about overcoming adversity and dealing with obstacles. And I can't think of a person who is more of an authoritative voice on such things than you. So does your message, the message that you want to deliver, does it hit all of the universes, from athletics to classrooms to kids who might be different than other kids?
110%. I think with athletes especially, it's so important to have self-love, and really understanding what that means is when we have a game that we aren't performing in our best capacity, or we fumble, we trip, we do something that we don't get the optimal result, that's not failing. That's part of being a human being. And high performers like athletes or people in theater or artists, or so many of these creative types where you have to really show up as the full version of yourself. If you don't have self-love, if you don't have the ability to step out as the best version of yourself on a daily basis, whether that's on the field, it's in the classroom, it's for your family, whatever that might be for you personally, it is so important. And it truly is universal, which is why I'm really pumped about getting this in the hands of an entirely new generation that can really use these tools and move forward with them.
So COVID's been hard on everybody, obviously, but you're a public speaker. So has that been hard to connect with people through Zoom or through, just the TV station, or is it has to be easier just to be there and feel the energy and talk to people? Has that been a hard adjustment for you?
It has. It's been a really tough, 18 or 19 months for the speaking industry, in addition to so many different professions. I found myself right in the first week or two of all of this happening in March, when every single event that I had coming up got canceled. And that was my entire business. That was everything that I did. And so it was very devastating for me personally, beyond just the business side of things, because that's really where I get so much of my energy and fill my own cup, by getting to share my story and light with so many different audiences, from students to business executives and really everywhere in between. But I was able to very quickly get out of that rut after I allowed myself to go through the couple of weeks of kind of mourning and being depressed, as I think a lot of us were. And I asked myself, what can I do with what is going on, and with what I know I have to offer as well. And I had a camera, I had my computer, and I decided to start expanding my ability to reach people beyond in person on stage, because there really is such a greater reach that we can have sometimes when we're able to offer content and messages like this to thousands and thousands of people at the same time, rather than just one audience in that same room. So I think it's a catch-22, where it's been so difficult to not get that same energy and the interaction that I love so entirely much. But at the same time, the new level of opportunities and audiences that I've been able to now expand into has been really extraordinary. And I know that my message has made a huge difference for those that have heard it.
I have an opinion, but I'd be interested in knowing yours. Why are you able to connect so well with people?
Good question. I think it's probably my ability to have this level of empathy and awareness of the human experience in a way, because I've had somewhat of an advanced timeline in my 22 years of just all of the different bumps and bruises and things that I've had to deal with. And that has really equipped me with this perspective that I have, which I didn't always used to be grateful for, but now I am. And so I would say that ability to really understand on a deep, genuine level is my catalyst to connection.
Old soul, I would call it. You have an old soul, an old kind soul.
And you have an old body. So
I have an old body. He has an old soul. Together we have a podcast.
Together you're me.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, because we had yesterday, I thought it was a very unique thing. I went to go to post our interview that we did on Good Morning San Diego, and Instagram is down. And it was down for the rest of the afternoon. And at first I was like in drug withdrawal. I was shaking. And then as the day wore on, I thought, God, I hope this social media blackout happens or extends itself. and it's a long-winded question, but social media and some of the woes that kids are facing, you know, it's in the news about Facebook and Instagram and how harmful it can be to young girls, say, and young people in general. Please pontificate on that a little bit. Is social media a good thing, or is it a bad thing, or is it both?
I think it can be both to the extremes on both sides of the spectrum. So I'll expand on the positive first. I think it could be such an incredible way to connect and to share ourselves and what's going on with our friends and just keeping up with people that we enjoy seeing and whose content that fill us up in some way. But then on the flip side of that, especially for teenagers and young people, it can be so especially toxic when it comes to the comparisons that you are naturally making. Oh, well, I didn't go to that party with all those people, so I must not be cool enough. Or I didn't go on that beach vacation with my family, so I must not be this, or whatever that story is. It really can send us in a spiral. And I've been there myself. When I was in high school and got so severely cyberbullied, I was letting that really overtake the story that I was telling myself on a daily basis. As in, I literally started believing all of the things in the comments that my peers would say to me and about me. And so it put me on a horrible trajectory and path that led to a very dark mental health spiral. My schoolwork was affected. Truly, my entire life was being pulled down. And it was not until I left that environment and really got myself out of that social media bubble that I was forced into being in that school that I was able to kind of lift my head above water and see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but then also this vicious cycle of hurt people. And so it just keeps happening. And that is where empathy, self-love, really talking about mental health and all of these social and emotional learning conversations that I think are so vital to have at every level of development. That's what it takes to really put a dent in the vicious cyberbullying and what social media is making our young people do and feel.
So you made an interesting point that I hear a lot: hurt people hurt other people. You were behind 2 legislative pieces in Virginia, I believe, anti-bullying and emotional intelligence teaching. What is the difference that you're a hurt person and now you're an advocate as opposed to hurting other people? What do you think the difference is, why hurt people continually hurt other people instead of becoming advocates and change?
It's when we are trapped in that cycle that we honestly don't think that there's any other way. And I speak to this from my own experience. When I was even younger, in my middle school years, I was such a jerk. I fought fire with gasoline. And like, I thought it was protecting myself. And I was putting a wall up to defend from other people being mean to me. But in fact, I was only making it worse for myself. And so it takes somebody being able to kind of step in front of us and shake our shoulders a little bit for us to realize, dude, or whoever we are, it's not the right thing to do to continue putting somebody else down because you feel like crap. It's only going to make you feel worse, and it's going to make the other person continue to engage with you in a horrible way as well. So that's where it's up to us to be able to really have that distinction of knowing that we are stronger and we're greater than people that are trying to throw that energy our way.
You still get bullied at age 22?
Absolutely.
I still get bullied. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, because if I was Brandon, I would just show my credit card rating, and that would seemingly end the conversation.
Yeah, if only that made a difference. What's interesting, Paul. It's not necessarily the kids that I would say are the bullies. More often than not, it's ignorant adults who don't know how to react to somebody that looks like me, or somebody with a disability, or somebody that is different. And that's what makes me sad, because when, especially, it's a parent that is pulling their phone out and start recording me and laughing as I go by, whether on the beach or on my Segway, whatever it might be, and their little kid is behind them watching that. It's things like that that I truly see the power of modeling, and the power of being that person that you want your child to become as much as possible, because I see it every day that young people are mirroring exactly what their grown-ups are doing. And so if they're not proper role models to lead the way, then that cycle of what we were just talking about, hurt people, it's just going to keep growing.
So that's a good point, and you know, we always think of ourselves here in California as being you know, liberal and
tolerant,
tolerant, emotionally intelligent. What is the difference between, say, seeing that bullying or that, you know, mocking in Virginia as opposed to California? Is it really the same, or is there a difference?
I would say I would definitely agree that California, especially SoCal, is so much more accepting, tolerant, inclusive, that sort of thing. And it's been really refreshing in the few weeks that I've been down here already. But wherever I go, to be quite honest, there are always those people that just react in such a degrading or mean way for no reason. I'm just trying to live my life. I'm being the same person that you are, enjoying the beach or riding a trail or whatever it might be. It's one thing to admire a really badass looking mobility device like I have. It draws a lot of attention, and I would do the same thing in terms of like staring at it and thinking it's really cool. But it's another to make somebody else feel like they are garbage and degrade them as a person. And that is what happens to me and so many others that have physical disabilities or other differences that are apparent to those around us. And it's called ableism. And that is what we fight against on a daily basis. It's not necessarily the disability that is the hardest thing or what comes with that. It's living in a world not built for somebody like you, and how others react, or not making eye contact, not saying hi when I'm trying to smile and say hi when I'm walking by. Something as simple as that, it makes a big difference.
Hey, let's talk about building a social media following, because Bert and I collectively are struggling to get past 3,000. And
3,000? I got 200.
on Instagram, and you're at I think last I checked, you're at 216 or 217 and growing.
1,000 though.
Yeah, 217,000 K. That's what I meant. Is that something? I mean, you've posted like 109 items, and you have this immense following. How were you able to do that? What's the secret?
It was really leveraging my attention that I was getting, especially after the TED Talk. So whether that was media or collaborating with other influencers, speakers, thought leaders, that was huge for me to build presence and community. That has always been incredibly important to me. So even right when I was starting to create content and putting myself on social media, which was probably 2015, right after I gave the talk, I discovered it's not necessarily about the size of the audience. It's about how engaged, how tapped in you are with your community. So there literally could be 50 of the most loyal, supportive people in your corner that could be an even greater platform than somebody that has 50,000 followers. And I see that pretty frequently with people that have a strong message and something that others can relate to. And I was able to use that with not only seeing my story as being unique and something that is intriguing to a lot of people, but how relatable and universal it is as well, that we all probably have felt not worthy or like we are less than or invisible or so many of these human things. And let's talk about that. Let's have honest conversations where we're able to move forward in a way that isn't just sweeping things under the rug. And that's what I've always been about. And I think that is really relatable to people. And I've always been as authentic as I can be, which I also think makes a really big difference when building an online platform.
So you talked earlier about the second you did the TED Talk, you knew you were going to do this for the rest of your life. What did you want to do before that? Because I wanted to be a carpenter growing up. What did you have before that? If you would have never done the TED Talk, what was your goal or what was going to be your profession? What did you want to do?
So funny enough, Paul, you'll enjoy this. I wanted to be in your seat. I wanted to be a broadcast journalist. So whether that was being an anchor or reporter, and to be honest, I still have a lot of interest in that. I'm currently working on a TV show that I am going to be one of the co-hosts of. So that would be around disability awareness, disability pride. So trying to still kind of mesh those worlds together, but being on camera and also telling others stories rather than just constantly my own platform has been something that I've always been really passionate about. And so whether that is creating my own talk show or podcast or whatever that might be, I think it's in the works as well.
Yeah, I don't think you want to get locked into like a TV employer. I think you still want to do your own thing, but blend the two.
Yeah, the pay sucks.
Yeah, I don't think you want to take the cut and pay, Brandon.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up in a little bit, but again, this is, you're going to be hard pressed, Brandon, through the course of your day to find an audience more specifically targeted at high school kids. That's kind of what our show is all about, and their parents. So it's a really, you're speaking to your core audience right now. What's your message to them? Because a lot of kids are waking up and they don't like the way they look, and it's being exasperated by social media, and they need someone like you had in your life, an adult, to let them know that you're special. I guess that's your role now. So what would you say to these kids?
My number one piece of advice would be we need to learn to make the voice in our head louder than all of the others. And I think this is especially relevant to high schoolers, especially high school athletes, because when you're out on the field and you have all of these different people yelling at you, you have to discern whose voice you're going to allow in and who you're going to listen to, whether that is your own internal compass that is leading you all the way, or it's your coaches, your parents, your teachers, your advisors that you allow to help you and support you, which is so important as well. So it really comes down to understanding that there's always going to be people that don't believe in us or say that we won't make it or whatever that thing might be that drags us down. But it's ultimately up to us to have that awareness and perspective to say, you know what, I know where I'm going. I know that I have awesomeness within me. That's where self-love really allows us to have that ability. And we don't let other people or situations that are negative really affect us in a way that it's halting our momentum. I think it is so important to remember that what we are going through right now is temporary. It's not what is going to be the rest of our life for all of us. And so having that perspective that there's so much more ahead for every single one of us, I think is a guiding force.
Man, spot on. Here, cheers. Hey, what's your schedule like? I mean, do you are you with the pandemic wavering or seemingly, are you going to be back out on the road again?
Hoping. It's been a bit slow to get back with live events, both from a safety precaution side. A lot of these bigger style conferences aren't yet happening in the way that they used to, especially with convening a lot of people in the same room to hear a speaker, AKA me. So I have my first live event coming up in, I think, a month, actually. So I'm actually flying back to Virginia, and I'll get to see my parents and dog for a couple days while I'm out there before heheading back to Paradise here in SD.
What kind of dog?
He is a Havana Silk, a beautiful 16-pound. Do you know the Havanese breed?
No, but I'm going to look it up right after we
We're
get out
baby
here.
boomers. We don't know anything but German Shepherd,
That's okay.
Golden Retriever, the usual.
How old's your dog?
He's a cutie. He is 8. His name is Brody.
Brody.
So there's Brandon, my older sister Brooke, and Brody.
Very cool. Hey,
The book. Where do we get the book?
yeah, let's not bury the lead. First of all, you're a multi-author. You've written several books. So where Amazon or where all fine bookstores are?
So my new kids book is actually not sold on Amazon. This company, the publisher that I was mentioning, a kids company about who is behind the book series, they really pride themselves on going the independent bookstore route. So they sell on their website, which is a kidscompany.about.com. You could just search a kid's book about self-love right on Google, and it'll be the first thing that comes up. And also, if you go to my website, brandonfarbstein.com, you could get the direct link right on there.
Okay. Hey, give us a little love on social media. Help us get to 3,000.
3,000.
Absolutely. I tagged the.
I saw that, and that was so
yesterday.
gracious of you. Brandon, I rushed to my computer to go put up our whole interview thinking that this was going to be the thing that was going to turn my life around, and sure enough, Instagram's down that day. But we're
Well,
back
my
up.
friend, it's back up now, so
Yes.
there's no reason not to.
Hey, Brandon, don't forget us, because I think I want to. You know, you were talking about having a partnership. Well, don't leave me out in the cold there. I think we could do some stuff together. And,
Absolutely.
Wait, am I fired?
No.
I just want to know if I was fired right
No,
now.
of course, Bert. You're in with the crowd.
Yeah, we're a threesome now.
Wow.
Okay. So, Brandon, thank you. Have a great day, and all the best luck to you. And man, I feel honored to be in your presence.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Brandon.
so much, Paul and Bert. This was awesome. Really appreciate it.
All right,
thank
we're going to
you.
do it again, I promise.